and welcome back. It's this guy from Banana who is welcoming you back. And we were discussing that standoff of revenue sharing formula in the Senate. And for the third time, or is it the fifth time, that the senators cannot be able to agree on how best to go about this. But eventually, it's up to them. They will still have to make a decision. And what is also being sought is a win-win kind of a situation. I've had some senators suggesting that because the amount of money that was allocated to counties, or the share of counties in the 2020-2021 financial year is similar to what they had in the 2019-2020 budget, then status quo remains, and the passage of the formula be applied maybe in the next financial year. That is one of the suggestions that are coming from the senators to enable county governments proceed with the budgets that they had drafted, so that time doesn't run. Remember, with the first month of the 2020-2021 financial year is almost over, and the Senate can't simply agree on the formula of sharing these resources that are being eagerly awaited for by the governors. There's also a suggestion by Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja, an amendment to the formula, and he's proposing that population be allocated 18% of the resources that are being devolved, health 17%, agriculture 10%, urban areas 5%, roads 6%, poverty index 14%, land be capped at 8%, basic share 20%, fiscal effort 1%, and fiscal prudence 1%. Wanjiru, does that sound like a prudent way of managing this standoff?
Now, I won't get into the you need to do like projections around that, and I'll leave that to the CRA. But the principle is this: the question we need to ask is, to what extent are we covering the development needs? We must support the shift away from the formula. If you go back to the conversations that took place when the CRA first came into being, there was quite a lot of criticism about the simplistic formula that was adopted. It was very much like the CDF formula. And, so far we haven't discussed where is CDF in this conversation. That is money that is going for development. And much as we don't want to deny the national functions revenue, there are questions about where the available revenue is going and how this needs to be applied. But back to the point, there were arguments then that we had a very simplistic formula. And the argument the CRA made then was, okay, this is a simple formula. It's very much like the CDF, which people are used to. It will be politically agreeable. What I think hasn't happened since then to now is the conversation around the service delivery gaps around agriculture, because investment in agriculture is falling. Now, counties do already put in, possibly more than 10% of what they have into agriculture. They do put in an average of 25% of county revenues goes into health. Some go even as high as 40%. So counties are already spending on these services. But the idea of this formula is to say that we, as a country, we recognize that we must first deal with basic needs, that roads are great. That kind of hard infrastructure is great, but development is about livelihoods, and livelihoods is based on basic needs. You need to have education, you need to have food, you need to have health, and so if the formula, whatever proposals that are made, because Senate can make alternative proposals, if they meet the principles of meeting development needs, supporting service delivery, then sure. The role of CRA, we must remember, is to do the analysis. They have to collect the data. They are an objective technical body that then operates in a very political space. And that is why their recommendations are advisory, because they are saying we've looked around, we've studied, we've consulted, and we are saying that this will help Kenya meet its basic development milestones and move nearer to what was anticipated in terms of the sharing of revenue. It's not just a political conversation, but it's also informed by the needs on the ground from service delivery and development point of view. So I would want to see what the analysis around that becomes. And what recommendations. And I will always want to hear what CRA has to say, institutions like the International Budget Partnership, and pray that our politicians will listen to that, but that our politicians will pay attention to the basic. And there's a question you had asked about what are the political loopholes? Yes, we have loopholes in our architecture, but those loopholes, I'll go back to what Kriegler said, and I quote this quite a lot because, you know, in the aftermath of the 2007 post-election violence, the Kriegler Commission looked and had interviewed and said, yes, people died. There was electoral fraud, you know, malpractice, violation of the law. But he said that the you know, overriding recommendation of the commission was it's not the law that made Kenyans go to fight. It's not the gaps in the law. There was sufficient legislation that had it been complied with, we need not have, you know, had the bloodbath that we did in this country. And so back to the point, the Constitution talks about dialogue, consultation. This principle has not been observed in devolution. It's not being observed now. And yes, CRA has given options. Parliament, the Senate has, you know, and I think there were 4 options being given so that there's a way forward out of this impasse. And we pray for sanity. But more than prayer, I think we're at a point where we really need to hold our political leaders to account as Kenyans and let them know, yes, we want you to fight for us. But we also want to have keep an eye on development.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Wanjiru. And in that spirit of dialogue and consultation, it was nice having a dialogue with you. So now we let you go so that we can consult amongst ourselves on a few other issues. And Linus and Joe,
thank you.
I look at the discussion about sharing of revenue and this formula, and I think there's something beyond it. I don't know whether you heard Governor Wycliffe Oparanya of Kakamega, who also chairs the Council of Governors, say that as at now, counties are yet to receive the last batch of the resources that to get for the month of March, indicating that it is highly likely that workers in county governments may get their salaries a little later than they should be. And talking about that formula of sharing resources, what is the real deal? Because either way, whether the senators will agree on the formula or not, if the counties cannot be able to get the resources that have been allocated at the right time and in the right manner, then therein lies the problem.